I live alone. I want to say that plainly and without apology, because it took me a long time to say it without either one. 63 years old, retired. One-bedroom apartment in Atlanta, third floor, window that faces east so I get the morning light. A cat named Roosevelt who tolerates me on his best days and ignores me on the rest. And I am, genuinely, surprisingly, not always easily, okay. More than okay. I am learning that living alone and being alone are two completely different things. And I am learning it late, the way I have learned most of the important things, which is after considerable unnecessary suffering. But I am learning it, and that is worth something. My name is Donald Arthur Mills, Don. My mother called me Donald when she was proud of me and Arthur when I was in trouble, so I developed a very specific reaction to my middle name that I have never fully outgrown. I am 63 years old.
Born in Augusta, Georgia, 1961, the year the Berlin Wall went up, which my father said meant I came into the world understanding that some divisions take a long time to come down. Daddy was a complicated man who said things that only made sense years later. I am the son of Arthur and Louise Mills. Daddy worked at the post office for 28 years and coached Little League on weekends because he believed boys needed somewhere to put their energy, or the energy would find somewhere worse to go. Mama was a seamstress and the most precise person I have ever known. She measured twice, cut once, in fabric and in words and in life. I have two sisters, Beverly, 67, who lives in Augusta still and has the same kitchen her mother had and makes the same biscuits, and I find this profoundly comforting. And Cheryl, 58, who moved to Charlotte 20 years ago and calls me every Sunday and has appointed herself the family's emotional supervisor, a role nobody gave her and nobody has successfully taken away. I am a father, two children. Marcus, 38, lives in D.C., works in public policy, is smarter than me in ways I find both inconvenient and wonderful, and Diane, 34, lives here in Atlanta, close enough to check on me, which she does with a frequency I pretend to find excessive and actually find deeply comforting. I am divorced. 10 years. Sandra and I were married for 21 years, and the ending of it was painful and necessary, and I am not going to spend this time making her a villain, because she is not a villain, and also she is the mother of my children, and that matters more than being right about who hurt who. And I am a retired high school history teacher, 35 years, Jefferson High School, Atlanta. I taught the same subject to 35 consecutive groups of teenagers who largely did not want to be there, and I loved it every single year. That is who I am on paper. What I am here to talk about is what I learned when the paper ran out, and I was left with just myself for company. When the divorce happened, I moved into an apartment and I treated it like a waiting room, like it was temporary, like it was the place between the life I had and the next life I was going to build. I kept the furniture minimal. I didn't hang pictures on the walls for 2 years. I ate standing at the counter. I watched television I didn't care about just to have noise in the rooms. I was present in the apartment, but I was not living in it. My daughter Diane came over about a year in and looked around and said, "Daddy, this is so sad." I said, "It's fine." She said, "There is not one single thing on these walls. You have been here a year." I said, "I've been busy." She said, "You retired 6 months ago." She had me there. Living alone is a skill. That is the first thing I want to say, and I want to say it clearly because nobody told me and I wish someone had. It is not a natural state for most people, or at least it wasn't for me. I went from my parents' house to a college dormitory to a shared apartment with roommates to marriage. I had never in my adult life been solely responsible for my own daily experience. Never been the only one deciding what was for dinner, what temperature the house was, what was on television, when the lights went out. The freedom of that is real. The weight of it is also real. And the skill, the actual skill of living alone well, of making a life that is full and warm and genuinely yours, that is something you have to learn. It does not come automatically just because you are now by yourself. Let me tell you what I learned. The first thing is the space. Make it yours, completely, intentionally, unapologetically yours. I waited 2 years to hang anything on the walls. 2 years of bare white walls that looked like I was passing through. And then one Saturday, Diane came over with a box of things from my classroom, photographs, a small painting one of my students made me, a quote I had kept on my desk for 20 years, and she said, "Let's put these up." We spent 3 hours hanging things on walls. When we were done, I stood in the middle of the living room and looked around, and something shifted. It looked like someone lived there. It looked like I lived there. Your space is not a waiting room. It is your life. Treat it like your life. Put things on the walls that mean something. Buy the lamp you actually like. Sleep on the side of the bed you want to sleep on. Make the space say, "I am here, and this is mine." That is not small. That is the foundation of everything else. The second thing is the kitchen. Learn to cook, for one, without apologizing for it. I was a terrible cook when I moved out. Sandra had cooked most of our marriage, not because I couldn't, but because I hadn't. And suddenly I was alone with a kitchen and no idea what to do with it. The first 6 months I ate like a man who had given up. Cereal, frozen meals, sandwiches over the sink, food as fuel, joyless and quick. And then Beverly came to visit and watched me eat a bowl of cereal for dinner and said, "Donald Arthur Mills." She cooked with me for 3 days, showed me 6 meals I could actually make. Simple things, nothing that required skill I didn't have. A good pot of soup, roasted chicken, rice and beans the way Mama made them. She said, cooking for yourself is not sad. Starving yourself of good food because you think you don't deserve it just for you, that is sad. I cook now. Real food, slowly, with music on. Thursday nights I make something I've never made before. Sometimes it's terrible. Roosevelt is not interested either way. Cook for yourself like you matter, because you do. The third thing is the routine. Structure is not a cage. For a man living alone, structure is the architecture that holds the day together. When I first retired and first lived alone simultaneously, I had no structure, and I dissolved into the days. Tuesday felt like Saturday. Morning felt optional. I lost track of weeks. A therapist I started seeing, Dr. Raymond Holt, patient man, good listener, he said, "Dawn, what time do you wake up?" I said, "Whenever." He said, "That's the problem." He wasn't being harsh, he was being accurate. Without external structure, the school bell, the staff meeting, the dinner at a certain hour, I had to build my own, and I had never built my own before. I wake up at 6:30 every morning now. I make coffee, I sit by the east window for 30 minutes with no phone, no television, just the morning light and the coffee, and Roosevelt occasionally walking across my lap. Then I walk, then I eat, then the day has a shape. Routine is not boring. Routine is the rails that keep you from sliding. The fourth thing is the friendships. Tend them like a garden, actively, intentionally, because they will not tend themselves. Men of my generation, and I say this with love and accountability, men of my generation are not always good at friendship. We have colleagues, and we have wives, and we have golf partners, and we call all of it friendship, but a lot of it is proximity rather than connection. When the divorce happened and the retirement happened, I discovered that my social life had been largely Sandra's social life extended to me. She made the plans, maintained the relationships, remembered the birthdays. Without her, I was standing in an open field. I called Marcus, and he said, "Dad, who are your actual friends?" I thought about it. I said, "Thomas at work, but I retired." He said, "That's one person, and he's circumstantial." He was right. I had to build friendships at 62 the way most people build them at 22. Intentionally. Awkwardly. Showing up even when it felt unnecessary. I am in a men's group now. We meet every other Wednesday. 6 men, various ages, various stories. We eat, we talk, we tell the truth. It took 4 meetings before I said anything real. Now I look forward to it more than almost anything else in my week. Tend the friendships. Make the calls. Show up. This is not optional. This is survival. The fifth thing is the body. At 63, your body requires a conversation, not a battle. I spent years at war with my body. pushing it past tired, ignoring what it was telling me, treating rest as weakness. Teaching will do that. You run on adrenaline and obligation and coffee for decades, and then one day the machine requires maintenance, and you are surprised. I walk every morning. Not running. I tried running at 61, and my knees filed a formal complaint. Walking. 45 minutes, whatever the weather. I have been rained on more times than I can count, and I don't regret it. I sleep. This sounds obvious. It is not obvious to men who were raised to believe that needing sleep was somehow a character flaw. I sleep 8 hours. I do not apologize for it. I go to the doctor, every appointment. I ask the questions I would have been too proud to ask at 40. I fill the prescriptions. I take them. Your body is not your enemy. It is the only vehicle you have. Treat it accordingly. The sixth thing is the purpose. Find something that needs you. This is the one that took me longest to understand. I thought retirement meant freedom from obligation. What I discovered is that obligation, the right kind, the chosen kind, is what gives the days meaning. I volunteer at a middle school on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, reading program, 11 and 12-year-olds who struggle with it. I sit with them one-on-one and we read together, and I watch something open up in a child who thought they couldn't do something, and then they do it. 35 years of teaching, and I still get that feeling. Purpose is not the same as being busy. Purpose is the feeling that your presence matters somewhere. Find where your presence matters and show up there regularly. The seventh thing is the quiet. Learn to be comfortable in it. This was the hardest one for me. I filled the quiet with television, with radio, with noise of any kind, because the quiet felt like a mirror, and I was not always ready to see what it showed me. But the quiet is where you find out who you are when nobody needs anything from you. The quiet is where your own thoughts finally get a turn. The quiet is where grief lives and where healing happens and where the next chapter begins to take shape. Sit in the quiet. 10 minutes, 20, work up to more. You will not like it at first. Do it anyway. The quiet becomes comfortable, and then it becomes valuable, and then it becomes the thing you protect most fiercely in your day. The eighth thing is the joy. Find what it is and do it without justification. I started playing chess again. I played in high school and college and stopped when life got busy, the way you stop so many things when life gets busy. I found an online community and I play 3 games a week against people I have never met from places I have never been. It brings me joy. Pure, uncomplicated, nobody needs anything from me joy. I also started reading history again, not teaching it, reading it, for pleasure, for the pure satisfaction of learning something with no obligation attached. What is your thing? Not what were you good at, not what made you useful. What brings you joy? Find it, do it. Do it without explaining yourself to anyone. The ninth thing is the family. Stay connected, but differently than before. Living alone does not mean living apart. My relationships with Marcus and Diane are better now than they were when I was married. Because now when we talk, I am fully present. I am not distracted by the static of a difficult marriage. I am just their father, interested in their lives, available in ways I wasn't always before. Sunday dinners at Diane's, monthly calls with Marcus that go longer than either of us plans for. Beverly every Sunday. Cheryl checking in, whether I need it or not. Let the family in. Not to rescue you, you don't need rescuing, but because they are part of your story and you are part of theirs, and that connection is worth tending. The 10th thing is the acceptance. This is the one that holds all the others together. Accept that this is your life, not the waiting room before your life, not the pause between chapters. This is the chapter. This is the life. Accept that living alone is not failure. It is not consolation prize. For many of us, it is the first time we have ever been fully responsible for our own happiness, and that is not a small thing. That is an extraordinary thing. Accept the grief that comes with it, the loneliness on certain evenings, the particular quiet of a Sunday morning, the moments when you reach for your phone to call someone who is no longer there to call. Accept all of it, and then make dinner, open the window, let Roosevelt onto your lap, Watch the evening light do what evening light does, and recognize this is a life, your life, and it is enough. I hung a quote on my wall the day Diane and I put things up. It was one I kept on my classroom desk for 20 years. My students used to ask me what it meant, and I would tell them, and I think I only just now truly understand it myself. It says, "The most important journey you will ever take is the one that leads you back to yourself." 63 years old, finally on my way. Roosevelt just walked across my lap. I take that as a sign.